In the essay about dog poop, the authors um, talk about how the law, the famous law enacted in New York, that fines dog walkers if they don't pick up after their dogs, uh, how it impacted New York by making its streets cleaner. But the authors actually uh, look at the law itself and look at the impact it's had, and they compared the number of people who uh, don't who do not follow the law versus the number of fines that were given in New York, and they found that it was 1 in 8,000 or 1 in 9,000 chance of actually getting a ticket for not picking up after your dog. So there wasn't really that much uh, incentive to pick up after your dog. So in order to make more of a punishment, the authors propose a plan of getting a DNA sample of every single dog, every single licensed dog in New York, so that way when they see poop on the street, they can get a DNA analysis of it and then match it up with one of the dogs in their database and then mail that owner a fine. But the problem they saw with that was not a lot of dogs are licensed in New York or in all of America, because there's not that much of an incentive to license your dog. So, in order for their plan to work, in order for the DNA analysis plan to work, they'd have to impose more strict laws concerning first of all, licensing your dog, and then strict laws about getting a DNA sample from every licensed dog in New York. And that would basically increase the incentive to pick up after your dog, which would make New York streets a lot cleaner. In the essay about voting, they talk about um, why people vote at all, and they gave a lot of statistics about uh, how small a chance that one vote can actually decide a race, or how little one vote can influence a race one way or the other. And so they were baffled about why people vote at all, and they say they give some reasons off the top of their head, like they uh, they talk about um, people, maybe they're just not smart enough to know that their vote doesn't matter. Um, they they talk about the similarities between buying a lottery ticket and voting, saying how, oh, if you there's not much of a chance that you'll win the lottery, but just by buying a ticket, you're able to imagine yourself winning the lottery. So voting could be the same way. Um, and then they ultimately conclude that the real reason that people vote is the social reward, is the social benefit. Just by other people seeing that you're doing your civic duty by voting is the reward enough to vote. It's not the it's not the civic duty itself. It's people seeing the civic duty. They saw this by in I think Switzerland. They enacted a more convenient way to vote by letting people mail in their votes instead of going up to the polling places. And they thought this would increase voting, but it actually decreased voting because the main reason that people vote is for other people to see them vote. And if nobody's seeing them vote, then there's no point in voting. Uh, so that's they concluded that voting, the reason people vote is the social reward. In the essay about AIDS, they talk about how prices and how consequences can actually influence uh, sexual behavior and sexuality. And they conclude that they talk about how everything has a price. Sex has a price, especially sex. Like the consequences of sex could deter people from having sex. Like not having sex or having sex without a condom could produce a pregnancy. So there's a lot of deterrence to not have sex without a condom. Um, and then, so the main thing that they talk about is, does HIV deter people from having gay sex? And they found that a lot of men who are in close proximity with a person who has AIDS, particularly a family member who has AIDS, is a lot less likely to identify himself as gay. Um, and they talk about how sex and um, they concede that the study that this was taken from was such a small sample size that it could just be coincidence that these people weren't gay, but in the on the chance that their exposure to AIDS influenced their sexual preference, uh, they found that sexuality can not only be influenced by biology, but it also could be influenced by incentives. And in the essay about taxes, they talk about why people cheat the IRS, and they found that more untrustworthy people, just because you cheat the IRS doesn't mean you're untrustworthy. They basically say that if the less incentive you have to actually pay your taxes, the less taxes you'll actually pay. For example, they give the example about the person who owns the restaurant and somebody who actually earns wages from an employer, and they talk about how a person who earns wages has that person's employer reports to the IRS about their employees' taxes. So it's a lot less. There's less chance that you'll not get caught from cheating. Whereas if you own a restaurant, you're your own boss. You're not reporting to anybody. So if you have to report your own salary, you have a better chance of getting away with cheating with your taxes. So that's why. So it's not that people who own restaurants are more untrustworthy. It's just